on display in elementary, middle school, and high schools, and public schools in general. It is sitting on the governor's desk. I just double checked right before the meeting, and he has not signed it yet. If it goes into effect, then that limitation, that will take effect July 1, and as soon as he signs it, then I will be presenting a policy that would support the law. The next one is House Bill 338. We've talked about this last week. That's the facility funding. It passed the House unanimously. It passed out the Senate unanimously, and now it's on the Senate floor. That's the one that would provide us the opportunity to apply to the state for an additional up to $5 million. The next one is House Bill 291. This is a new fund that the state is looking at creating. They haven't put a lot of money into it, about $5 million, and this is for high-needs students. So there are students that are costing districts over $15,000 a year, and we have, I believe, about 8 of those students that cost our district. These are special education students, so when they're high needs, there would be some funds that we could apply for once we have gotten to that $15,000 mark. And to help offset the cost, currently in Idaho, special education is underfunded by about $80 million. And so this is, while $5 million is not a great amount, it is an avenue to help support going forward, to help support some of the students that are costing districts quite a lot of money. That one has passed the House, and it is in the Senate Ed Committee. The next one is House Bill 305, and that's called the Use It or Lose It. So this one's a little tricky. So back in 2008, when there was the downturn of the economy, the legislature changed kind of how they perceived things. Some districts would choose to not to have just like 1 or 2 extra students in a class and not use all of their FTE that were granted to them as classroom teachers, but then it offered them the opportunity to pay teachers just a little bit more because they would have, big districts particularly, would have 1 or 2 more students in a class. However, legislation was passed that when a district did that, every time they did it, they lost up to 9.5% of their funding, and this wipes that away. So that has passed the House, it's passed the Senate. When it passes both, then it has to go back to be signed off on the first body that it passed through. So once it gets passed out or signed off at the House again, then it will go to the governor's desk for a signature. The next one is House Bill 391. It's on civics instruction, and it basically changes the test that students would have to pass. So it is making the civics test, instead of how it has been, the government test that it has been, that had the local control to establish the test. This would make the test based on the hunger naturalization assessment questions that are used, nationwide for people to become citizens. So that has passed the House. It's headed to the Senate. The next one.
So that would be the test that they would take and run.
Yes. So it would be the same test, and it is a tough test.
Yeah.
So
it is pretty extensive.
It is pretty extensive. It's got a lot of questions and everything. That would change from local control to a standardized test statewide, and there's a test that is already created. So there's advantages to that. Sometimes when they change how they're doing things, they create a lot of work trying to figure out what the test will be, but it's based upon those 100 questions, and whether or not it uses all 100, that would be up to the Department of Education. The next one is Senate Bill 1007. That's on public comment at school board meetings. It was just earlier when I made my notes, I said on the governor's desk, because it had passed both houses, and it was signed. That will go into effect July 1. So we will have some policy updates to do in relation to that. That will impact that policy 1520 that we tabled a couple last month. So that will enable me to finish that so that by the time it's in effect, our policy reflects that. The next one is Senate Bill 1044, and this is for cursive handwriting proficiency. And so there's been a lot of talk about whether or not we teach cursive handwriting and such. It makes it so that the local districts have to establish, their proficiency guidelines, but it, requires handwriting proficiency at whatever guidelines the district sets. And it was, signed by the governor, so it will go into effect July 1, so we'll have to have that ready for next school year. Which can be tricky, because, not all kids, we do teach cursive handwriting in Pioneer, but not all kids in other places, when they move in, have had cursive handwriting.
But they have it in different years, so.
Right, and so, at least it goes through, it's by the end of 5th grade, which gives us the opportunity, but there's potential that we could get a student that has come from a school that doesn't teach handwriting or cursive, that would come in here in 5th grade, and we have to figure out how we address that, so we can get that student up to speed with that. Some people thought that's crazy to do, cursive handwriting, but there is some research, that another superintendent shared that connects some impact of cursive handwriting to dyslexia and, having a positive impact on students that have dyslexia. Ironically, because when you print, you're constantly pulling your pencil up and off the paper, which takes a lot of executive function, which makes learning harder for kids with dyslexia. So that it has some positive, it does have some educational learning basis behind it. So the next one is Senate Bill 1032, and that is distraction-free learning, and that is the cell phone, having cell phones not in classrooms, and that was signed by the governor, so that's effective 7/1/2025. We did pass our distraction-free learning. We clarified some things in our policy, so we're already in compliance with that. Connected to the things that we had passed before, we've received $5,000, so we'll be getting with teachers to ask them what they want in their classroom to help address that. Some of the ideas were things like little mailbox things and such. It was brought up, what about if there's like a lockdown, can kids get to their phones, because obviously parents would want them to have access. And I think whatever we do, we can put it in a place where students can have access to it when they're locked down, so it's not right by the classroom door or whatever, it could be where they're doing their lockdown, so, in a back corner of the classroom. The next one was Senate Bill 1069, and that is, pretty important, because that continues to support the early literature intervention, which is the smart reading program that we have, implemented in Pioneer, and that, has shown some great, a really positive impact on students, their ability to spell and their ability to read. So I'm glad that they are continuing that program. In addition, it gives us a coach. So every year, we try to get a few more teachers that are new signed up, so that, because we've had the same coach now for about 4 years. And so the teachers like the coach, it's a positive thing, it gets a coach, we can't afford a literature, a reading coach in our district, however, it gets somebody in the district that's helping. And teachers are enjoying that, so. And then the last one is the Senate Bill 1096 that I've spoken to you before about the weighted student funding model. I'm not sure that anything will change with that. At this point, it was retained on the Senate calendar, which means that they want more time to discuss it. It came out of Senate Ed, but now it's being held so that they have additional time to discuss it on the Senate floor when they get to it. There was one other thing, and I didn't write down the number. There was, a bill to revise how transportation is funded and make it a straight 85% reimbursement, and that bill did die. So, it's still a convoluted mess. Some things are reimbursed at 50%, some things are reimbursed at another percent, and it's not